Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. So there is a possibility that I have chosen the worst time to film this video because my throat is still not doing great. I'm currently recovering from a cold and it's getting dark outside, so if the lighting looks weird at any point then that is why. Also, I have my laptop in front of me which sometimes glares at me, so if you see any weird shadows then that is also why. But I really wanted to sit down today and chat to you about my March reading plans and my March TBR as chosen by my TBR game. I'm a booktuber, get me out of here. If this is the first time that you're watching my TBR game then I will have the playlist linked in the cards and in the description just in case you'd like a refresher on the rules or you'd like to watch from the beginning. I didn't actually play my TBR game in February, however I did make like a standard TBR and it didn't go well. At the time that I'm filming this, I have read, I think, most of the books that were on my TBR, but I didn't like many of them. I don't know what happened, but all of the books that I've been reading this month have been either 5 stars or 2 stars, nothing in between. So hopefully March will be better. I mean, I'd still like some 5 stars, but hopefully we have less 2 stars. I'm not currently planning on taking part in any readathons next month, and I'm also not sure if I feel ready to start vlogging again, but we'll see how it goes. Let's get into the roles though. So we're going to kick things off with role number 1 and find out what is the first book that I'm going to be adding to my TBR. So kicking things off with role number 1, we have 1, which is fantasy. Role number 1 landed on fantasy, and for this I'm going with The World We Make by N.K. Jemisin, which is the second book in the Great Cities duology. I read the first book, The City We Became, in February and loved it. I think it helped that I read this while I was in New York, and it's set in New York, so I kept seeing places mentioned that I was actually going to, and it was just a really immersive experience. There is something about N.K. Jemisin's writing that really works for me. It feels really intense and compelling, and even though I read this over the course of more than a week, every time I dipped back into it, I could feel myself being absorbed back in the world. This is basically set in an alternative reality where once cities reach a certain point, they come alive, and there are people walking the earth who are avatars of these cities and they embody everything about these cities. New York has reached that point where it's about to come alive, however something goes wrong, and what's unique about New York is that it actually has 6 avatars. So it has 5 people to represent each of the different boroughs and then 1 person who represents New York as a whole, and the plot is basically about these people coming together to save New York from this unknown threat. It is more vibes and atmosphere rather than plot, but I really enjoyed this and I'm really interested to see what direction the second book goes in. I have a feeling it's going to become more political because the first book did have quite a significant focus on politics, and I've heard that that is the direction that the second book goes in, so I'm really intrigued about that. Role number 2 is a 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which is another fantasy. Role number 2 also landed on fantasy, and for this I'm going with another sequel, and it is the most intimidating book on my TBR, but I need to know how this series ends. I've been reading this series for years. I think I read the first book in 2021, so it's about time that I finally finish The Realm of the Outlandings by Robin Hobb. This is the final book in the Fitz and the Fool trilogy, and I am not ready. I know I'm not ready. I know it's going to destroy me, but I need to know how this series ends. I have my suspicions, I have my theories, but yeah, I am so excited to finally be finishing this series. I read the first book in this trilogy in February, and I'm currently halfway through the second book, and then my plan is to immediately go into this book. I don't know whether that's actually going to happen though, because I might need to take a break. But yes, for anyone who doesn't know, this is an epic adult high fantasy series that is incredibly character driven, and there's 16 books in total in this series, but it's split into like mini series, and so far The Fits and the Fool is shaping up to be my favourite series of them all. Rule number 3 is a 1, which is challenge, and the challenge is to read one of the oldest books on my TBR. Rule number 3 landed on challenge, and the challenge was to read one of the oldest books on my TBR. So the book that I've chosen, I might end up regretting, but this has been on my TBR for years, ever since I started getting back into reading fantasy. So the book that I have decided to read in March for this challenge is The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. Yes, this is the first book in a series that is still incomplete, and there's no news on when or if it's ever going to be completed, but I have been so curious about this book, and funny story, this is the last book that I need to read from the 5-star predictions list that I made over 2 years ago, so I feel like it's about time that I finally read it. If you don't know what The Name of the Wind is about, then same. Actually no, that's a lie. I know that this is the story of Kvothe, who is the most notorious wizard that the world has ever known, and he is telling his story through these books. I think he now runs an inn, or he's an innkeeper, and he's recounting his story to another person who's documenting his life. I know that it has a magic school setting, and a lot of people say that this is one of their favourite fantasy books of all time, so high praise. Hopefully it becomes a new favourite for me too. Rule number 4 is a 2, 1, 2, which is thriller. Rule number 4 landed on thriller, and for this I've decided to go with Bullet Train by Kotaro Isaka. I was meant to read this in, I think, 2022 when the film came out, but I didn't. I put it on a TBR and then I forgot about it. So it's finally time, I think, to read it. This is a theme, I think, for a lot of these books. It's finally time for me to read this book. I haven't even seen the film yet, and I don't want to watch the film until after I've read the book, but this, I believe, is about 5 assassins who board the same train and then realise that they've been given the same target, or that their missions are all linked, something like that. It is translated fiction. It was originally published in Japanese, and I have enjoyed Japanese thrillers in the past, so hopefully I enjoy this one as well. Rule number 5 is a 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, which is another thriller. Rule number 5 also landed on thriller, and for this I have raided my shelves again, and I came across Rabbits by Terry Miles, which I was really intrigued about at the time. This is about an alternative reality game that might be altering reality itself. Let's be honest, I bought it because it has a rabbit on the cover, but it also sounds quite intriguing. I haven't heard many people talking about it, but I do tend to like books that involve some sort of game. This doesn't have the highest average rating on Goodreads. However, recently I have been enjoying thrillers that do have lower average ratings. I think the fact that I haven't heard much about it might actually end up working in my favour. Rule number 6 is a 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, which is romance. Rule number 6 landed on romance, and for this I've gone with the only romance book that I own physically. I realised recently that whenever I want to read a romance, I automatically go to my Kindle, because that's where I own most of my romance books, because I read a a lot through KU, or I get a lot through 99p Kindle deals. However, I do own one romance book physically, and I keep meaning to read it, but I keep forgetting that it exists on my shelves. So I am finally going to be picking up The Fine Print by Lauren Asher. I believe this is a darker romance. I know that it's contemporary, and it's the first book in the Dreamland Billionaires series, which is a series of companion novels that each follow a different brother, and these brothers are the heirs to this theme park that sounds a lot like Disneyland or Disney World. A bit nervous about this one because I know that it gained a lot of hype because of TikTok, and I don't always have the best luck with hyped TikTok romances, but I believe that this is a workplace romance, which I think I've enjoyed in the past, and the concept sounds really cool. I'm hoping that this will be a fun time, and I'm hoping that I enjoy it. And then this could be the final roll. It is. 1, 2, 3, 4. So those are all the books that are going onto my March TBR. I'm going to attempt to hold up this stack. I can't usually do this because usually most of the books that I read are on my Kindle, but these are the books that are currently on my TBR. We have The Fine Print by Lauren Asher, Rabbits by Terry Miles, Bullet Train by Kotaro Isaka, The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss, and Assassin's Fate by Robin Hobb, and also The World We Make by N.K. Jemisin, which I do have on my Kindle. But yeah, let me know in the comments if you've read any of these and if you have any thoughts or feelings about them. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and click subscribe if you would like to see more videos from me, but otherwise I will see you next time. Bye!